Hi, all. Welcome. We're so honored for the excitement that's been surrounding this event. We've been extremely excited as well and super happy that we can bring it to you digitally so that everybody can feel safe and participate. And we're just grateful to have you here. So we hope that this next hour can be a very cozy moment of togetherness in our community to listen and grow and celebrate the success of a few powerful women entrepreneurs some of you might know, and I have no doubt in my mind that all of you are going to love by the end of tonight. Before we get started, I'll give you a little bit of information about Innovate Marquette SmartZone. So who are we and what the heck do we do? So we're here to help build and foster the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Marquette. We're part of 21 smart zones that are all around the state of Michigan, each with their own unique skill sets and goals. So ours is to provide support to entrepreneurs in the technology, sustainability, and accessibility sectors, as well as existing local businesses who would like to innovate from within. What makes us truly unique is our relationship with Northern Michigan University and running the day-to-day activities and mentorship of students at the Invent at NMU program. We believe that all ideas are truly worth exploring, from products and inventions to business ideas. So we, along with our friends in the Houghton Hancock area, have events coming up that we think might interest you. So the first is Return North, which is happening this coming Tuesday, November 17th. It's a virtual career reception that will allow job seekers to connect with employers in the Upper Peninsula. So if you or anybody you know are looking for a job or just to speak to some employers up here, check it out. There's also another Women in Entrepreneurship event coming up next week in case you just haven't had your fill. It's on Thursday, November 19th from noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's hosted by the Husky Innovate, which is Michigan Tech's resource hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. It follows a similar format to tonight's event, and it'll be virtual as well, with 3 remarkable female entrepreneurs. So you can learn more about both of these events and all of our future Innovate Marquette SmartZone events by following us on social media. We have Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and we also have a lovely website. And right before we get started, I would really like to thank our sponsors for tonight's event. That is the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, as well as the City of Marquette, and we can't forget the Marquette Food Co-op. The Marquette Food Co-op is Marquette's only full-service, natural and organic community-owned grocery. The co-op is collectively owned by over 5,000 households and has been serving Marquette and Michigan's Upper Peninsula since 1971. Building and maintaining strong relationships with local farmers and artisans is a really important part of the co-op's operating philosophy. The co-op provides shoppers with access to organic, local, wholesome, and fairly traded food and products. It also offers farm tours, cooking classes, educational workshops, as well as a variety of other services aimed at educating the public about food and environmental issues. If you'd like to learn more information, go to their socials or their website. Lastly, we can introduce our wonderful team as well as our panel of successful and powerful women entrepreneurs we have here in the Marquette area and Upper Peninsula. So Kristen Johnson is our new marketing coordinator here at Innovate Marquette SmartZone. She will be the one behind the scenes, just like the Wizard of Oz, controlling all the little things you see going on. She's an Upper Peninsula native who spent the last 16 years in the Chicagoland area for schooling and building her professional career. However, she has her sights on the Upper Peninsula, and we're so excited that we get to welcome this Uber back home. You'll see over here, or this way. This is backwards. Over there. Nancy Lyons is an entrepreneur, speaker, author, activist, founder, CEO of a Minneapolis-based clockwork. It's an experienced design and technology consultancy. Nancy is a Marquette native who's been at the forefront of the work culture conversation for more than 20 years. Then we have Meg Lukes, who is the CEO of Meg Lukes Photography. She's drawn to low light and color. She's a children's portrait photographer, and her heart lies in photographing her own children and being her family's storyteller, among many, many other hats that she wears. Then we have B. Bea was born and raised in Marquette, and she is both the general manager of one of the community's most iconic sandwich shops, Togo's. So that's a full-time job. And she's also the co-founder and owner of one of the most widely recognized wellness centers, Rohana Yoga and Wellness. And then we can't forget our very own Catherine Stenberg, who will be today's moderator. She was a student project manager at the Inventa NMU program, which led her into her current role, which is our entrepreneurial services coordinator here at Innovate Marquette SmartZone. She is a woman of many trades, an entrepreneur at heart, and a passionate Uber transplant. Her passion is to support and elevate the Marquette community through mindful communication and empathy, which makes her a great asset to the area. Okay, that was a lot of words, and it's also my cue to sit back, relax. I'm going to drink my tea and listen and learn from you all.
Thank you for those introductions, Nicole. I guess we will jump right in here. Our first few questions will be more of a roundtable styled format, so getting perspective from each of you beautiful panelists, and to follow individual questions specific to each of your journeys. And so to start off those roundtable questions, Nancy, if you don't mind, we'll have you answer the first one. And so this is, tell us a little bit about your journey to entrepreneurship, and why did you decide to start your business?
My journey to entrepreneurship was a total accident. I didn't have any idea that I was going to be a technologist or the founder of a company. And I thought I was going to be an actor, maybe a lawyer. I've always had the ability to, talk my way into and out of situations. And so I pursued media studies. And honestly, I started working in traditional media. I was getting a lot of coffee for older white men. I wasn't finding my way to opportunities behind the camera. I had a title of line producer or producer, but I wasn't given any powerful opportunities. And I saw my future and it was dismal. So I'm much older than literally everybody else on this panel, probably everybody else on this website, apparently. And I got involved in programming for the internet before the internet was really mainstream. So I started to teach myself how to program. I found some folks that I aligned with. We were all experimenting on the web. We started a company, we sold that company, and we started this one. So I'm self-taught. I finished college with a degree in media studies, but I taught myself how to code. Now there are whole college programs built around the kind of work that I do, that my company does. But at the time, those didn't exist. So total accident, which is why I think being open to happy accidents is the best thing we can do for ourselves and our careers.
Awesome. And I think that's a great segue into maybe, Bea, if you want to answer that question next. I know that your journey was a bit of an accident as well into entrepreneurship. So if you want to sort of talk about why you decided to start Rohana.
I got into the practice of yoga in 2015, and I guess I'm kind of an all or nothing person, so I was all about it, and it was really life-changing for me. I really connected with one of the teachers at the studio I was attending, and private lessons with her, and we became really close, and she was definitely, I guess, a mentor of sorts, and she always had a dream of opening a yoga studio. And I was like, well, I could do that. You can teach and I can do the business side. I've been doing it for a while. I mean, restaurants aren't at all like yoga studios, but why not? And I just felt like one of the things that I found to be really rewarding about my job is connecting with people. My job in the restaurant, sorry, is connecting with people, and I've had a chance to mentor some of the young kids that work for me, and that's been really rewarding. And I just felt like I want to make a positive impact, and I make a lot of people happy with a great lunch. But I really wanted to change change people's lives for the better, and yoga really was a huge impact on my life. Excited for the opportunity to share that in some way.
Awesome. And Meg, if you want to take it away with why you decided to start your business.
Sure. I started with photography when I was really young, and it was with film and developing my own prints. And I decided in college not to pursue photography, and kind of at that time was thinking I should try to take a more practical route. And so I ended up going into advertising, and I got an advertising degree. Then after college, I got married, started having children. I was working in Grand Rapids for a startup company, which I absolutely loved. But I also decided to kind of do this side gig of photography. I started having kids, and I really wanted to, of course, photograph them, but I really enjoyed it. I was taking classes online as well. And I wanted to start a side business. And so the startup company that I worked for got bought out. And so it was at that time I decided to make photography a full-time business. And so I was photographing clients. Then my oldest son got diagnosed with leukemia. And it was at that time that I was not only taking on clients, but I was also teaching as well, teaching photography online. And I couldn't juggle both of those things. So I decided to solely just teach online and take care of my family. And things started really happening at that point while I was teaching. I started teaching more classes and more classes online. I started working with other companies like big lens companies like Sigma and a big lighting company called ProPhoto. And I still work with these companies to this day, plus teach online courses. And I also had a dream that I would start traveling around the world and teaching in-person workshops. And that happened this year until COVID happened. I was supposed to once a month go to a different country to teach an in-person workshop. And I made it to Moscow in February. And then after that, with COVID and everything, a lot of these workshops basically were moved, rescheduled, some of them canceled, but a lot of it we've also been trying to work on just doing online and kind of working around it. So being flexible with everything that's going on, and that's where I'm at today.
Great, thank you. To move on to the next question, we have quite a few here, so I'll try to be as cognizant as I can of all of these here. If you want to start us out with this one, I think would be good. What is your background, and how have some of your skills and experiences prepared you for entrepreneurship?
Honestly, I've been in the restaurant industry for 23 years. And I think that it's a strength of mine. It's easy to talk to people. And I think I can connect with people easily and just enjoy it. And I think that part of success is using your strengths, right? Like that makes it a lot easier to be successful. And I really enjoyed working in restaurants. I like to kind of always be doing something different. I'm not very good at sitting still at a desk or whatever, and I don't mind to work hard. I guess I filled a lot of roles in restaurants. I was always kind of a trainer or some kind of assistant manager. I helped start a restaurant up, and then I ended up at Togo's and just had a lot of ideas for the owners, and they were open to it. And when the general manager at the time that I was hired decided to move on, I was given that opportunity. I've been working for the family for 10 and a half years as a general manager for 8, and I really had a lot of on-the-job learning, which is exciting, and I've learned from mistakes and successes, and I think that probably maybe didn't give me a lot of applicable experience to starting a business, but at least gave me the confidence to know that if I want to do something, I can do it. And I don't know. I hope that answered.
Yeah, I think that answers. I think if you think about, I've worked in restaurants in the past, and I've worked in your yoga space, and so I think that in thinking of those two things and comparing them, there's just systems in place with how you take an order and you get it to ready and prepared and you deliver it to the client, and how that goes with yoga. I think it's a different thing that you're selling, but I think that you're just such a strong woman and you make it happen, right? Nancy, you want to take it away next with your background and your skills and experiences that have prepared you for entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people all the time the best thing I ever did for my business career was study theater. So I think, and I also worked in food service, because when you study theater, you work in food service. And I think both of those things really prepared me in ways that I couldn't have imagined for a career in business. I actually tell all of my product managers to take an improv class. And I encourage that in most of the work that I do, because I think improv really helps you think on your feet. I'm often sort of stunned by the number of people that can't facilitate a meeting. So I think, some theater study is really valuable. I also think, food service taught me how to hustle. Food service taught me how to upsell. Food service gave me a really strong work ethic. It also helped me to recognize, I always remember where I came from. So no amount of success is too much success. And I also recognize that there are other folks just like me who need somebody to believe in them. I had people believe in me in moments when I didn't even believe in myself in that food service space. And so I'm constantly sort of looking for opportunities to pay that forward. So, I mean, my background is unremarkable, except that I started working in technology really early and shifted that story. So, similar situations. I had jobs in Marquette. Actually, I had to leave Marquette because I thought there was no opportunity for a career for me, which I think is, an interesting thing to touch on in this conversation, and I'm sure we will. And I think had I not moved to a larger area at the time, I don't know that I would have the career that I do. So.
I love that. Do you think that you could touch on any productions or pieces that you were involved with?
Well, I did some theater at Northern, but I moved here in Minneapolis and did something that I'm particularly proud of. I'm kidding. But I had a great experience doing murder mystery dinner theater when I first moved here, which actually made me some of the greatest friends of my life, who are all pursuing professional, stage and screen all over the place. So I cross paths with, people like Miley Flanagan, who, if you have kids, she's Principal Perry on Lab Rats, and she's the voice of Naruto, and she won an Emmy for Piggly-Winks, some Jinx, the pig, I don't know, it's a pig on PBS. I don't know. But people that I saw go on to really amazing careers were all here because Minneapolis has an amazing theater scene. So.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. And Meg, what about you? What about some of your experiences have attributed to your entrepreneurial experiences?
Well, I think graduating with an advertising degree, when I graduated, I thought I'm going to work for this big ad agency. That's what I'm going to do. And things really changed. And I kind of decided that maybe, as much as I love advertising, maybe it really wasn't the field for me. And now with my photography business, I use all those skills that I learned in college for advertising a lot. Running my own business, I'm wearing many hats. And so understanding my audience, advertising myself, I have to stay heavily involved in social media. Instagram is a platform I use quite heavily to sell my workshops, sell my work, to get people and students to sign up for my workshops. And so using those kind of platforms to reach new people is really, really important to me. And so having that advertising background has really, really helped with what I do now.
Great, thank you. And I guess, Meg, if you want to start us off with this one, I'll give it to you for this roundtable. So what are some challenges that you faced in your journey of entrepreneurship? And with these challenges, do you feel that any of them are specific to being a woman in your industry?
Yes. So I have photography in general. It is, at least it feels like it when you go to some events like WPPI, which is a major photography event in Las Vegas every year. There's a lot of men. And so it can feel, when I went to WPPI especially, that was kind of like an awakening for me, just because I work for a company called Click and Moms. It's all about women photographers. And so when I went to WPPI, it was like all men. And I felt like there were certain times where I wasn't taken seriously. And part of it, I think, also is because I photograph my children. So I'm not taking on clients and I'm photographing my family. And to me, that's like the best of both worlds. I'm photographing my family, documenting our life, and I'm teaching about how to photograph children and families and all the things that I know. So I do run into situations, I think, where I'm not being taken seriously. And I think part of that too is, again, just because people, viewing me as a mother photographing my children. I'm just another mom photographer. So when really there's so much more to that. And so I do run into those situations a lot. And it's just something that I've just learned to not really pay attention to and to do my own thing, to stay true to myself. And that I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I feel like as a photographer and as an artist, and I try to tell other people this, your work should speak for itself. So I don't feel like, there's something that you need to prove to anybody. It should speak to, for itself. So.
Beautiful words of wisdom there. B, do you want to take it away next here?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, absolutely. So what I have is, what are some challenges that you've faced on your journey to entrepreneurship? And what are some challenges you've faced that you feel are specific to being a woman in your industry?
So I guess because I have the full-time job running the restaurant, I think that I've maybe faced more challenges there, I guess, being specifically being a woman. I think that I deal with a lot of machinery, equipment breaking all the time. And so a lot of repairmen are men, repair people are men. And I'm pretty curious. So whenever I've gotten my car repaired in the past or our delivery vehicle repaired, like I pay attention and ask questions about parts or why or what's next. I have a air compressor on my walk-in cooler, and I know that the coolant it takes, and I know that it's outdated, and I know that there's a slow leak, and you know what I mean? Like it was important for me to know why and how things work. And I think that, when I first started, I was, 30 and running this business, and I was learning a lot on the job. And I think a lot of men that I came across, maybe doubted me until they started to speak to me, and I'm pretty assertive and straightforward. And if I don't know something, that doesn't, I guess, really bother me, because it's really the opportunity for me to learn, and I'm curious. So I think that just maybe other people kind of doubting you, or like you said, going to conventions where it was mostly men, and then just kind of judging you based on your appearance and the fact that you're a woman, and then they get to talk to you and realize maybe that's why you're doing what you're doing. So I think that it's easy to I guess, overcome. At least it was for me to overcome some of those challenges.
Thank you. And Nancy, I'm particularly interested in some of your comments about this question, just knowing about the tech industry and sort of the male dominance in that area. So if you could share some of the challenges that you faced in your journey and that are specific to women in your industry.
Sure. I mentioned earlier, I've been doing this for a long time. So I think that there wasn't even language for what we as women experienced in this industry early on. I say all the time that I grew up in my career being the only woman at most tables. Right now you would call it a microaggression, but when I was younger in my career, that term didn't exist, and we just all learned to navigate around the fact that men would make eye contact with other men at the table, and completely disregard that I was there, even if I was the person who was leading the discussion or was providing the strategy, or that the other people at the table actually reported to. So I had to, you learn to move through that. I also often tell people that, the reason I'm even an entrepreneur is because I am not a woman who fit in like other women in traditional corporate, settings. So, I've never worn the right clothes or the right shoes or, shown up the way. And as much as we hate to admit it, there is truth to the fact that there's a type of woman that organizations are comfortable with. And then and listen to me, I'm loud. I just talk like this. Like, this is just who I am. This is just how I show up, with energy and an emphasis behind what I have to say. And that can be off-putting for people. Not so much anymore, but early in my career, there just wasn't a lot of room. I also think, one of the obstacles was funding. Now if you want to build a business, you can crowdsource it. You can open you can start a GoFundMe this week and fund a business next week. Those sorts of options didn't exist. We didn't even really understand sort of the VC world at the time. And that makes me sound ancient, but think about it. Both of those things have really only been mainstream for about the last 5 to 7 years. So you don't have to be ancient to recognize that, it was harder to get access to funding. It was harder to get access to clients. It was harder to get respect in the boardroom. And the thing that I will say about getting older in business is, I don't deal with any of those things anymore. And now my company is in demand, but it took me, I would say it was probably twice as hard for us to gain the profile that we wanted in the technology space to be able to be a global consultancy. It probably took us twice as much work and twice as long to gain that profile. We're there now, and have been for probably the last 10 years, but it was a scrappy journey. Totally self-funded, totally bootstrapped. And I mentioned earlier that we sold our last company. And when we did that, we were really clear. I work with the same business partners. We were really clear that doing it this time, we would be hard pressed to sell again. So we have other business ventures, but Clockwork remains sort of our primary company, primary focus. And there's a reason for it, because I think the other thing that, at the time was really difficult was acquisition. Acquisition changes cultures, acquisition breaks promises, acquisition can be really hard. And when you start to think about being acquired, you become less about your values and less about the quality of your product and more about your numbers. So you got to make sure that those two things align. And our company is really people-centered, and I think people might make the mistake of gendering that. We might be more people-centered because I'm a woman. And I would say that right now, the way that business is moving, I think we're starting to recognize more and more that employee experience is as valuable as customer experience. So So yeah, I mean, the path was bizarre, but learning to navigate through male-dominated culture, not even industry, but business is male-dominated, and it still is. Let's not lie to ourselves. So learning to navigate through that was actually, you know, a great lesson in business.
Thank you. Wow, you all are so powerful. I love it. Okay, so next question. Where am I at here? B, if you would like to start us off with this one, what do you think is the biggest misconception about female entrepreneurs? There's a trend going on here.
I think that, it can be pretty intimidating for men and maybe just other women too, if you're very assertive and straightforward, and sometimes that can come off as, I don't know, maybe you're just not nice. And I think finding like the balance of being yourself and being okay with like the softness or being more people-centered is, I think it's just good to strike a balance there, and that just because you're assertive and strong does not mean that you're unkind or unfriendly. So to, I guess, feel good standing in your own shoes and confident and proud to be assertive and in the role that you're in.
Yeah. Meg, do you want to jump in?
Sure, yeah. Mine actually is not really just tied to being a female, but tied to being a mother, just from personal experience. And I think, you know, with running my own business, there are times, my family is everything to me, but there are times where you gotta have to kind of give and take. And sometimes my business does come first, and sometimes my family comes first. So it's kind of picking and choosing, you know, certain things that are priority. And I think that's one of the things I sometimes run into is that, again, not being taken seriously, because my family is always going to come first, and I'm not going to, you know, do certain things or accomplish certain things in my business because it's always about my family. And yes, they're everything to me, but there are certain things that too, that I love what I do. And it's important to also, you know, carve a path for myself. And I love photography. I love teaching photography. And so there are times where my business is going to take priority in certain things. And so that's one of the things I sometimes run into. I think, and again, not, you know, being taken seriously because being a mother.
Yeah, I could see that. Nancy, do you want to tie up this question for us?
Can you repeat the question?
For sure. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about being a female entrepreneur?
You know, I think misconceptions are subjective. I think everybody brings their own baggage to how they perceive, you know, women in business. But I think, you know, the idea that we're softer, that we're not great negotiators, that we shouldn't be assertive, you know, I do think that when people project their baggage on women, so you know, I think somebody made the point earlier that if you're assertive, you're mean. And if you're shrewd, you know, you're difficult. And if you're, I mean, I think women have to play to a higher standard, and that's just all there is to it, because they are, you know, we filter women through expectations of women versus, you know, judging them on their business acumen. So women play to a higher standard. So do people of color. You know, I mean, there are marginalized communities that play to a different standard, because if they step out of line, if I step out of line, it could mean the difference between you deciding to work with me or not. And I think for a long time I compromised myself and just tried to make clients happy. And now in my, I keep saying old age, obviously I'm nobody's grandma, but, now that I'm in, a more seasoned point in my career, I don't do that. So, if you can't handle, we operate in line with our values. If our clients can't handle that, then they probably shouldn't be our clients. But I'm not going to change who I am, in order to meet our clients, in a place where they can be comfortable with me. Or us, the whole organization is really about, we have a people first culture, and the point of it is that people bring their whole selves to work, and we get their best work when we encourage that.
Thank you.
I have something to add to that because it made me think of something else, and that was just that just the other day I ran into a situation where I think that a lot of times women also get taken advantage of. So there are several friends that I work with as artists. They start working with a company, and then that company keeps going back to them and asking for more things for free, right? They ask for like articles to write for free. Hey, can you maybe create this video for me too? And they don't offer any sort of payment or whatever. And I had a friend reach out to me, another photographer, and they were like, this is like the third or fourth time this company, and I love them, but they've reached out to me asking for more and more stuff. And I've got all these other things that I'm getting paid to do. What should I do? And I told them, tell them no, tell them you have all these other things that you have going on that you're actually getting, you're getting paid for. And I did tell her, I said, I want to just ask you something, be honest, like if you were a man and they asked you to do this, if they asked you to write this article, would they ask that man to do it for free? And so that was kind of one thing that kind of led into the discussion, because I don't think so. And so I think that's one of the things we kind of see happening a lot, especially with artists. And it's such a cutthroat thing, a cutthroat career to be in, is to have to do these jobs for free and kind of get taken advantage of.
Oh, for sure. I can only imagine too with trying to get some exposure of just your art, and that, there's some sort of manipulation happening there of, oh, well, you're going to get this sort of reach, though that's not necessary. It's, you're providing your art, and that should be compensated and recognized.
Right. And she was a photographer too. So I had to remind her, I'm like, you're a seasoned photographer. You have amazing experience. You shouldn't be doing this stuff for free. So.
That's a great point. I'm getting a note here from the other folks with the SmartZone, and I just want to remind our audience that if you have any questions, please feel free to comment your questions, and at the end there will be an opportunity for us to ask those questions. All right, so I have another question that's sort of in line with some of the ones that we've been discussing, and I think this will sort of tie up just the maybe imbalance that we've experienced as women in business. And so, Nancy, if you'd like to start us off with this one, that would be great. And it is, what are some of the challenges you believe that women face that men do not?
Yeah, I mean, there's some really basic, real, like data proven challenges that women face, which is we are less likely to get funding. A fraction of women get funding, although there's more and more energy being channeled in that direction. I think women have a harder time establishing banking relationships that are actually helpful. So I think, if not funding, then financing. I think women, also struggle in building, getting access to resources. And community. And I think that they do it, we do it through peer groups. I know for myself, a couple of things that have been really helpful to me have been things like the Women's Presidents Organization, which is international. And then they have different tiers. And one of the tiers is companies from, $10 to $50 million. And when I started with that group, it just opened my eyes to the possibilities in terms of, how I could scale my business. So really access to mentors that have achieved some of these things is critical. I think, two things happen. One is people are afraid to ask. And the other thing is people forget where they came from. going back to that, and they don't make space for folks that aren't peers. And so I do think that, there are secrets in business, right? They're not really secrets, but until you're having the conversations, you don't know what you don't know. And I often, am reminded of how little we learned about actually operating a business in any context in school. Right? So it's other people that teach us how to do this work. And we might learn sort of the tactical aspects of the work in college or when getting an MBA, but it's access to people and resources that are most helpful in actually building successful businesses. And I think women really need to work twice as hard to get that access and to be taken seriously.
Cheers to that.
Oh God, she keeps bringing us down.
All right. I'm getting a little bit of a lag here, so I'm sorry that I'm awkwardly staring. Meg, do you think that you could follow up with a response to some challenges that you believe that women face that men do not?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to what I had mentioned about being taken advantage of. It was about, I don't know, it was like 2 years ago, but I'll never forget this moment. Nikon, and I think it was in Europe, Nikon, they announced like their Nikon ambassador team. And I think it was, like I said, Europe. There's like 25 of them, all men. They posted this picture and it was all men and it exploded and it went viral because there was not one woman on the ambassador team. And I feel like I'm in photography at like a really pivotal moment because I'm seeing all these companies really try to make a change to work with women and just diversify their ambassador teams. So you're seeing a lot of big companies like Canon, Nikon, Sigma, all of them working to diversify so you're not seeing all of just men on their team. And so that's one thing that I do feel kind of privileged to be seeing right now. And I think it's a big thing that we kind of all struggle with as far as being a women photographer and then also being an artist, and heavily, heavily saturated and everybody's sharing their work on Instagram and everybody wants to get noticed, is, to get noticed, but then, taking jobs for free constantly because everybody, like I said, wants to work for that company, wants to work for Canon or Nikon or Sigma. And so that's one of the things I think as a woman photographer we struggle with sometimes is getting taken advantage of with these companies. But like I said, it's been really amazing to see kind of a transition over the past couple of years.
Thank you. Bea, do you want to help tie this question up in a bow and let us know what you think some challenges that women face that men do not?
I feel like my experience is a little bit different just because of the industry that I'm in, and I'm in a management role. So I think that it's helped me being a woman sometimes navigating how to communicate with people. But I do think that I just think that we just have to find this balance of being ourselves and warm and kind, but also being assertive. And I really like to negotiate, and I like a challenge, and I like, to, I guess, surprise people. So, but I think that maybe I haven't faced some of the challenges that the other panelists have had, and when I have faced them, I kind of just, I don't know, I guess it invigorates me or excites me to prove myself, or I don't know. So I think my experience is a little bit different, maybe a little bit smaller in this community. And I also, the business I run, 2 of the owners are women. So it's a little bit of a different setting for me as far as that goes. And as far as funding, I think that is probably a challenge, but I opened my business with bootstraps and shoestring budget. And so I think that perhaps some of those challenges I will probably face and have learned some things tonight to help me in those endeavors.
Thank you. Yeah, I empathize and agree with what you said there with, sometimes the people that are bringing you down are your worst critics or, the judgments. Those are some of our biggest motivators to, let's show them, like, let's rise up and do our best work. So sometimes, that's a motivating factor for when you're trying to push something to fruition. It looks like we're starting to get questions from the audience here, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that first one. And is there any advice, it's appearing on the bottom of the screen, hopefully you all are seeing this, any advice on how to navigate when you are perceived as intimidating by others? So does anybody feel inclined to answer this one first?
I can.
Okay.
I mean, my number one piece of advice about being perceived as intimidating is own it. Own it. I think that, men who are strong and own a room or a conversation or a business negotiation, we see them as being competent. And yet women who are strong and assertive, we somehow want that word intimidating to be a dig, and it doesn't have to be. I think if you are perceived as intimidating because you are competent, that says something, and there is nothing wrong with competence. Now, if you're perceived as intimidating because you just throw your weight around, that's a self-awareness issue, and I can't help with that. But I do think that our society has this desire to limit women and to put us in our place by saying things like, well, you're so intimidating. No, actually, I just have a lot of energy. I just feel good about what I'm doing. I just enjoy showing up every day, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually really good at my job. And, a woman in business gets to be centered in that. A brain surgeon probably comes off as intimidating. And if that suggests competence, that's a good thing. And I would say it's the same for business. So own it. Own it. Put your arms around yourself and love yourself. If you are a big, intimidating creature, go with it. Run with it. Win with it.
I love it. And I see your book sitting on a table behind you, Nancy, and I think I haven't read it. I haven't had the chance to read it yet, but I've seen it all over online on LinkedIn. If you could read us the title of that would be awesome. Just to share, get some hype going.
Sure, thanks. I appreciate it. I have a new book out called Work Like a Boss, and it's a kick in the pants guide to finding and using your power at work. And what this really is a great post-pandemic book, because it really speaks to this idea that none of us can wait to be told what to do. And we're all responsible for the health of cultures at work, and we all are responsible for taking initiative and doing our best and showing up with great energy. So we can't blame organizations or our bosses anymore. We all have a little bit of power that we need to use wisely. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Well said.
Lindsay is asking a question here. Are you intimidating, or are they just intimidated? Other people's feelings are their business. So I'm not quite sure how to answer that one, but I don't know if anybody has a response for our Lindsay there.
Honestly, I feel the same way. What other people think of you is none of your business.
Yeah.
So.
We're right there with you, Lindsay. I do have some more questions lined up over at the side here. I believe this one that is, top 3 tips, pieces of advice for women who are trying to decide whether to become an entrepreneur. So top 3 tips. Meg, do you want to take us through some top 3 tips that you may have?
Sure. I would say one of those is time management, which I think is something that I still struggle with and will always struggle with. I get asked the question, what's my biggest hurdle and struggle, and it's time management, because it's constantly changing, and trying to find a balance between all the things that I'm juggling with my job and with my family. But I found that it's as simple as having a planner and time blocking for myself and staying organized that way. That works for me. So it's finding something that works for you. I would also say just continue to learn and grow. That's something, you know, I do feel like I can say that I'm a seasoned photographer now, but I love to continue to take classes and to learn. And I don't think that's ever going to end. And I'm going to continue to grow. And I love what I do. And the moment that I don't love what I do is when I should consider maybe, you know, another profession. So I think that's really important, to have a drive to continue to learn, to continue to grow. And the third one, I would say, gosh, I don't know. Maybe somebody else can help me out with the third one. Maybe staying driven. I will say that I do feel like I'm a driven person. And with the industry that I'm in, it is heavily saturated. And I think it's really important to, you know, carve out a space for myself as an artist, like my own unique work. And so when I'm teaching others, and I'm running these workshops, I love to teach them everything that I know, but I want those students to apply it to their own lives and, you know, continue to create their own unique art. That's the beautiful thing about being an artist. And so that's one thing that I also find really important.
Thank you. And your passion comes through. I watched one of your YouTube webinars before this, I tried to research all of you a little bit so I could have some background, and it was really inspiring. Bea, do you want to give us your 3 tips?
I guess make sure it's something you can sell and that people want, because the point is to make money, right? And hopefully be able to support yourself doing and I guess maybe finding something that you love, because you're going to work really, really hard, and it's going to take up a lot of your life, you know, to make it successful. So to make it something that you're passionate or, you know, just feel strongly about will help when it's tough. And I think the balance thing, honestly, is something that I struggle with. And I think that's a really important thing, because I think that work is really important, but I'm not just a to-do list and just my accomplishments, you know, I'm like a being. And so to balance life and work is really, really important. So kind of thinking about how you can do that. And because a lot of times when you're beginning, you know, I still am working a more than full-time job, you know, and so it's a challenge, and it's easy to kind of get overwhelmed at times. So I think that's a big one.
And it plays right in line with what you do, right? The balance of life.
I should do more yoga.
All right, Nancy, do you have 3 tips for us?
Sure. I think, you know, the first one would be, how good are you at hustle? You know, is the hustle in you? If it's not, keep working for somebody else, because entrepreneurship requires hustle. How comfortable are you with failure? Because you're going to do it over and over and over again. And we don't talk enough about it in our culture, how important failure is to success. So the best lessons you learn in building a company is when you fail in building that company. And I think that women especially are sort of culturalized to believe that we have to, like, our work product must be perfect, right? It has to be done and perfect and publishable. And I think that we're living in a far faster, lo-fi business world now, where we have to try tiny experiments to get to the better product, and that requires failure in between. And I think Getting comfortable with failure is a big part of entrepreneurship. And then I think a big question to ask is, what are you going to give up? Because, the question that people ask me all the time is, how do you have it all? And my answer is, I don't. So really think about what you're going to give up, because the hustle really dominates. And I think being clear on those parts of your life that may not get the attention or energy that you imagined is really important, so you don't feel cheated later on.
Love that. So good. All right, we've got a question from Andrea or Andrea. I want to give it both chances. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But what is one or two resources, a person or a book that inspires you as a woman entrepreneur? So I am going to say Meg, because I saw your face light up a little bit down in my corner. Meg, do you have two resources, a person or a book that inspires you?
Well, I work for Clickin' Moms. So they are a organization that centers around women photographers. So that's how I started. I started taking classes through them, and I was like, one day I hope that maybe I can start teaching classes through them. And then I did. And so a lot of my mentors to this day, I found through Clickin' Moms. So it's an absolutely wonderful organization, and it unites all of us women photographers together. And men are welcome to join, and they do join, and I have men take my classes, and it's wonderful. But it really is centered around the women photographers.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Was that all that you had to say there, Meg?
Yeah. Sorry, that was my one resource.
Okay. B, what about you?
I feel like I have a lot of really inspiring women in my life. So I think that surrounding yourself with people that you look up to and make you want to be better and to grow as a person, and to surround yourself with people that have what you want and have the personality traits and the accomplishments that you hope for yourself. I think that it's important to surround yourself with people that embody those, things.
Thank you. And Nancy, what about you?
I always recommend the book, The 4 Agreements. It's not a business book at all, but I think it's probably some of the best advice I've ever encountered. The most important one to me being that don't take anything personally, which is one of the 4 agreements. And I think when you get past taking things personally, you actually free yourself and free your mind to do some of your best work. So I think it's a great book to keep by your bedside or on your desk and refer to often when you need counseling and reminders that you are capable.
Love that. Great book. All right. So this next question will be the final question, and it is from Paige. So what are some first steps for a college student doing entrepreneurship? Nancy, if you'd like to start us off here, that would be great.
I think do research and find yourself some mentors as soon as possible, because there's that phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That is so true. Start building your network now and start meeting people. The other thing that I will tell you is women are not taught to ask for what they want. Start learning how to do that and start asking early. You don't have to earn a pedigree to be able to ask for time, attention, advice, resources. So find mentors, have good, honest, vulnerable conversations with them, take critical feedback. Really, like, I think that we somehow figure that if we're going to seek out mentoring, that what we want from them is they tell us that we're doing a good job and we're great. But I think what we want from our mentors is critical feedback. We want them to tell them where we're failing. We want them to tell us where we're failing and where we could do better and how we could show up stronger. We want that from our mentors, because later on, nobody's going to care enough to tell you. So find solid mentors, receive critical feedback, and ask for what you want would be my advice to a college student looking to be an entrepreneur.
It's great advice. Meg, what about you? What do you think?
I agree a lot with what Nancy said. And I also really want to just talk about getting out and meeting people, and networking is huge. It's crucial. That's what opened up so many doors for me. Like, this is a perfect example. Last year, I went to Spain, to Barcelona, for my first international talk on photography. And I did that conference. And after I had spoke at that conference, it opened up a bunch of doors to speak at other conferences all over, just by speaking at that one. So it's about, getting out there, attending conferences, meeting people, networking. That was a huge thing for me. The more I did that, the more people I met, the more doors that opened.
Wonderful, thank you. And B, if you want to finish this up here with what are some first steps that you would advise a college student studying entrepreneurship?
I think I'm going to echo, the other women, but one of the things I know I probably say to just about every kid that works for me is know your worth. And I think part of that is asking for what you want. And remember, if you don't ask, it's a no. So you might as well ask, because you never know if you have the opportunity unless you put yourself out there. So I think that's important, to know your worth and to not be afraid to ask.
All right. Well, thank you all. Well, folks, now is the time. We sadly need to wind down, but I don't know about you. I feel very enlightened. I feel like I got a lot of great information, and like this was a very powerful and needed conversation. It definitely cleared up a lot of questions that I had personally, and I'm really happy that we had time to answer questions from the audience. We hope that you enjoyed this discussion with these inspirational humans as much as we did. And speaking of networking and reaching out, if you or anybody you know are interested in entrepreneurship, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're stuck on an idea and don't know where to go, please come to us at Innovate Marquette SmartZone. No matter what your budget is, we can try and walk you through the process, or at least point you in the direction of an organization that can. That is what we're here for. So again, special thank you to our panelists and our partners at the MEDC, the City of Marquette, and the Marquette Food Co-op. I hope you all have a tremendous evening. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.